thank you everyone for coming. This is our, as I say, the very first, our inaugural Coffee in Very Good Company session that we've just started. We're kicking off today with Andrea Illy, and we couldn't be more delighted to have this conversation. I mean, I've always wanted to hear more about your business thinking and how you've run Illy, and I thought, why have this conversation on my own? Why not share it out with others? So you have, 50 or so interested people on the line who are joining this coffee conversation, and it's a real thrill that we can have that conversation together. Just before we do go into it, if you don't mind, I'd like to just set the scene as to why we are running these series of Coffee in Good Companies. It, of course, is because we want to share the wonderful thinking that's going on. There's also a really specific purpose behind it, which is, I mean, I think everybody has been made really aware of the fact that business's role in society and in our lives has got to play a key part, and we all have to step up to the huge challenges. And so we've seen this incredible rise in the term running businesses for stakeholders, whether it's stakeholder governance, stakeholder management, stakeholder capitalism. These words are now used in the press, in the mainstream, hugely. We've never seen such a flood of this concept, but we don't think it's hugely well understood. There's quite a lot of myths in it. There's quite a lot of misunderstandings, and also not so many people are really embedding this. But the B Corp community, of which Illy is a new and most welcome member, has a real opportunity to show what it means to them to run these companies for the interests of all stakeholders. And that's what we really want to drill into, is what does it really mean? What difference does it really make? And then we can, I think, understand and argue the case for this being the way we think all businesses should run, with ever more sort of concrete information and convincing arguments. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody on the call understands really what we're trying to get from the wealth of information that sits within the B Corp community, and that we think this is such a wonderful opportunity to share the experience, because it's not easy running a business for stakeholders. It's not running a business at all. Any kind of business is difficult to run, but this has many dimensions. So without further ado, we'd love to hear more. Andrea Illy, you are, I think, the third generation of the Illy Coffee Company, started by your grandfather, an 85-year-old company. And I'm enjoying hugely your coffee here. Maybe you could just, I hope everybody else has their lovely coffee to start the day as well. Maybe, yeah, cheers. Maybe you could just tell us, so who are all the stakeholders who are involved in getting this coffee to our cup?
Oh, it's good morning, Katie. Thank you for the invitation and the great opportunity to address this beautiful audience, and welcome to all the people connected. Before I list our stakeholders, let me answer your preliminary question about our business philosophy. Actually, our business is a dream. It's a dream. It's the founder's dream. My grandfather, who in 1933, when he founded the company with a dream of simply as offering the greatest coffee to the world. But this dream, short and simple in phrasing, has a lot of symbolic and human contents, because offering is something much bigger. It involves the generosity, the altruism, the inclusivity, and the greatest, of course, goes much beyond how it is done. The quality, in coffee you typically measure organoleptic, so the taste, quality, and nutritional one. But as Sant'Agostino used to say, perfection, in order to be perfect, needs to be twofold. It needs to have material perfection, but also the perfection in the intention, in the scope, you see? So this means that the way we do things is equally important. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite side of the coin. We talk about sustainable quality. of course, with this dream in mind, Illy is positioned to be and aims at being the world quality leader. In a business, you are in a better place if you lead something. So you can either lead a price with a quantity, or you lead a quality with a premium segment. This is our job. And when we talk about quality leadership, it means sustainable quality, because sustainability and quality are going perfectly on. That means that if you don't have the one, you don't have the other, and vice versa. With that, it's clear that this dream also kind of inspired the Illy philosophy, which is to be a stakeholder company, pursuing quality of life improvement for all the stakeholders involved. Why this? Because basically, Peter Drucker used to remember that the only goal, superior goal of a company is survival. We shall think about that, and because it makes sense in a sense that we are there to serve customers, make and serve customers. Profit is a mean in order to pay the cost for survival, which can be whichever cost, paying the cost of capital, innovation, adapting to the environment, developing marketing, fighting against competition, whatever is needed in order to survive. But this is the essence of one corporation, and the performance of one corporation is one side, but the responsibility of companies is the other most important, that Peter Drucker told us. So with that, if we consider the definition of sustainability as simple as satisfying our current need without compromising the future generation ones, so how can you be unsustainable? It's impossible. You destroy the world around yourself on one side, and you compromise your long-term existence. This is, let's say, this is kind of the threshold. But if you then watch from the economic perspective, you can understand if we want to change the society, there is only one type of organization which can do that, and are corporations. Why that? The state has the mandate to create the condition for investing, but the investors are corporations. And dependently on how they invest and in what they invest, they will shape, in a collection of the million and million of companies, they will shape our society. So this is why I believe that ethics is fundamental in corporate, let's say, governance and ethics is the real, let's say, and to my understanding, fiduciary duty, not simply respecting the law, because respecting the laws is typically a nihilistic approach, and you just do whatever is mandatory, and then for the rest, you maybe tend to maximize profit, which is not in the philosophy of what we are discussing about. So with that, our stakeholders, in everything follows the money, follows the cash flow, which is the only way the company can survive. So the cash flow generated stakeholder consumer with this, million of these illy cups drunk every day. This is the source of cash flow. And we have to start from there, sending the coffee beans up to the hand of the consumer and collecting the money from the hand of the consumer up to the coffee growers. So our customers are the second, let's say, class of stakeholders, who are the retailers and the hospitality professionals are our partners in delighting the consumer. Then we have our team, our colleagues, who are responsible for nurturing our customers, also producing the wonderful product which delights them. And then we have our suppliers, without whom we wouldn't have our delicious product. And then we have communities, all the communities the company is involved in, which are the source of talents. You know, a corporation, it basically is made by humans, by talents, and the communities are the important, you know, pool for those talents. And then the top of the pyramid, the bottom of the pyramid, sorry, the shareholder, who in our philosophy is there to serve the company, not the other way around. We are there to perpetuate the business. We are there to take the risk. We are there to put responsibility and accountability on the business. We are there to suffer, sacrifice the short term for the long term, and so on. So this is our philosophy. And for all the stakeholders, we pursue the so-called triple bottom line: economical, social, and environmental sustainability. They are all intertwined. You cannot have the one without the other, even though it's difficult to identify which one is the first. So it's circular as an approach.
Mm-hmm. Super, that's wonderful.
So the idea is economic sustainability through the principle of share value.
Yep. Exactly.
We have to generate value, otherwise we don't justify our existence. We cannot sustain our existence, but this value generated needs to be evenly shared among all those stakeholders. Mm. Second, social sustainability through the principle of personal growth. We are here in order to drive progress, in order to philosophically improve our species, and this can be done through knowledge. So this is what differentiates the human from other species. So this is why we created 20 years ago a University of Coffee, which is the only one existing in the world, with programs starting from introductory courses up to a master degree in coffee economy and science, which is the only one existing in the world. And this knowledge is transferred to all our stakeholders, no matter if they are growers, suppliers, or if they are customers, so that they can improve not only the way they treat coffee and they work with Illy, they treat the consumer, and also do a more sustainable and better business, so they can stay longer in the market like us, and continue nurturing this long-term partnership. And last is environmental sustainability through the principle of respect. I said we cannot damage the world around us, so we cannot pollute for sure. We shall avoid any waste, because we cannot perpetuate this model of an extractive society, continuing to extract resources from the planet and never regenerating them. We need to shift from there, and the very first thing to be done in order to shift from an extractive model to a regenerative one is to be circular, and then also use as much as possible regenerative resources. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, I'm finished with the definition of the principle for environmental sustainability. So this is more or less our philosophy, and from there, you know, there has been a path. I would say all the processes, the corporate activities are designed literally around this philosophy. I'll give you an example. When the coffee sector entered in a price crisis at the beginning of the 90s as a consequence of too low prices over production, you know, yeah. And we started having problems in getting the right quality for our customers. We decided to completely overcome all the value chain and went directly working hand in hand with coffee growers. So we started a long journey by awarding the best growers for the best quality, paying them premium price, 30% up on top of the official market prices, transferring knowledge then through the University of Coffee, creating a community which is now called the Circolo Illy, and so on. This journey makes us to source 100% of our coffee beans directly from the growers, right, in a long-term relationship, and they get much better margins by working with us. which helps them investing in their plantations and having a more, let's say, sustainable business. Another example is the packaging technology we use, which is in metal, so in iron, a tin plate, which is 100% recyclable. It is perpetual recycling of this packaging material. We are now talking about waste. We are talking about, life cycle assessment. This, I hope that this industry will go carbon free by using renewable energy, but this is entirely circular. For the moment, we are there, and so on. We are now in the process of pursuing the most ambitious goal ever, which is to be carbon free in 2033. Not because it's a joke, but because in 2033 we will celebrate our centennial anniversary, and we want to celebrate by achieving this ambitious goal. Our roadmap foresees, of course, the energy transition, which we will need to be done in partnership with all our suppliers. It foresees an optimization, further efficiency in the life cycle assessment, but the most important model with which we will be able to inset the non-compressible emissions, the residual compressions after we've done the two previous one, will be this concept of agroecology, growing coffee in a non-conventional way, getting of mineral fertilizers thanks to organic carbon soil enrichment. But not only that, also have a good balance between the so-called, let's say, cultivated land together with the natural land left to forest and reserve, so that we can inset in the same ecosystems where we grow our coffee the minor emissions that will be still be left. And by doing that, also boosting biodiversity, which is well known to be so important for healing ecosystems in which we live and recoup, let's say, a better world.
Beautiful. And what's so lovely to hear the themes you talk about. We hear so often from B Corps the importance of the relationship with and particularly with suppliers, the long-term view about relationships, the circularity of all the stakeholders being dependent on each other, the concentration on so many things at once, on what your environmental footprint is, and these wonderfully ambitious goals that I know many, I think 1,000 B Corps now have set to be carbon neutral by 2030, which, this is all in the ambitious mindset of what it really means to run a business for the benefit of all. I just wanted to, you've had the role, I think, of CEO and now are chairman of the board. I think there might be some people on the call who are interested about how you hold this agenda and this ethical framework, and potentially the balancing of these interests that you might have to consider in the boardroom. And what does that look like for the board to think about their fiduciary duties along these different ways?
Oh, very good question. Thank you. So we are a family business. We used to be 100% family until a few months ago. Now we are 80. We got our new partner, Ron, on board, and we chose this investor as a consequence of their alignment with our philosophy. As far as the idea is to build a world-class organization in order to be family controlled but professionally managed. We don't want this family business to be kind of suffer from the typical self-referentiality of family controlled businesses, because we want this binôme within our family name and our brand to perpetuate, and the best way to perpetuate is to have this company as competitive as possible, and as I said, separating the job of managing from the job of shareholder control. With that, the shareholder sustainability and the B Corp philosophy, which totally embraces what we are, is mandatory. it's part of the mandate by the shareholder. So there must be, and there is a very strong agreement among stakeholders, no matter if the family majority stakeholders or all family or also external relations. If this goal is mandatory, then you can do a lot. Because of course, the very first step you do is choosing the governance upon this mandatory goal, what we want to accomplish. So we have a 3-year mandate for each board, and every time we choose the board members according to our needs in improving what we are, including, of course, sustainability. Just to give one example, the current Italian Ministry of the Environmental Transition used to be our board member and chairman of our sustainability committee. So he had to resign because he needed to serve the government. And I had the opportunity to ask him to serve our board because we wanted to set this ambitious goal to be carbon free in 2033. Then, of course, the CEO is chosen upon this mandate, because each time we set a goal for our, let's say, benefits, let's say our, and we are, by the way, we are a benefit corporation. Yes. We have a statutory commitment to pursue the sustainability of the coffee value chain from plant to cup. The second goal is to be circular in all our resource management. And the third goal is to pursue happiness and well-being for all the stakeholders. So even if you wouldn't be aligned, you must be aligned because it's statutory, as I said, as a benefit corporation. Benefit corporation is not exactly the same things as a B Corp, because a B Corp is a certification, and the benefit corporation they are, of course, totally consistent and aligned, but you could be the one without the other. In that sense, you could be only benefit, no B Corp, or you could be only B Corp without benefit. And each country has its own specific legislation for this system. So in Italy, we have a situation like this. We have a law which allows corporation to become big benefit corporation, and then on top of this, you have the B Corp certification.
Exactly.
So, and last but not least, of course, we have a very strong sustainability committee. We also have a chief ethical officer, and then we monitor. We are very thorough about control and measurement and reporting, and this is how we kind of steer this commitment.
Yeah, super. You actually mentioned a very important point for the future, really, of what the legal structure is going to be in Europe around the role of companies thinking across society and the environment. And many of you may know that the EU published a consultation document earlier this year, which was in its way quite progressive and looked at what really would a mandatory obligation to run a company, such as in the way that a benefit corporation would be run. What do the people think about this? And it's had a very strong response. I think nearly 1,000 replies. And for us, we feel this is the moment to grab the opportunity and to manage. All companies should operate in the way that you are, and as you've just described, but to provide the support and the help and the understanding of what the implications are, to demystify elements. So if you were, if you could put a kind of, your magic hat on and convert the world into stakeholder governed businesses overnight, what do you think would be the biggest transformation for the world? What would it create?
Well, there is. Now, every 10 years, more or less, you have a big debate and arguments about the divide between the shareholder capitalism and the stakeholder capitalism. Personally, even if there is such divide, it's only at the extremes. When you are pursuing extreme shareholder capitalism, or extremes are never good, because as we used to say, in medius stat virtus, right? It's more in the balance. Why this? Because if we create pillars of shareholder capitalism, this is profit maximization and putting shareholders on top of the stakeholders list. Actually, there is no other stakeholder, only the shareholder one. And if you extremize this, you can easily, let's say, understand the three things. First, profit is not an interesting KPI for two reasons. It's not related to the fundamental, let's say, measurement of a company, which is its value. And the value of what corporation is dependent on cash flow, future cash flow, not past profit. Whereas profit maximizes, measures the profits from the past. And there is not necessarily an algebraic relations between profit and cash flow, because you can deplete your high profit with a significant capital intensiveness, and you will deliver possibly less value compared to less profitable business with our more financially efficient. So it's totally different. One is an economic value, the other one is a financial one. One is regarding the past, and the next is the other is regarding the future. But then, if we are, even if you are talking about maximizing profit, there are plenty of ways you can squeeze your partners in the industry in the short term. You can squeeze your customers by you can squeeze your suppliers, you can squeeze your workers, and then so what? Are you really building a sustainable business by squeezing your partners in order to short-term maximization, profit maximization? So I think it's simply not wrong, because it's not to me to say wrong or not wrong. It's not sustainable. So if you want an extreme shareholder capitalism, then forget about having a long-term corporation.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
It's about speculation in this case. It's not about corporate governance. On the other side, if you extremize also the stakeholder approach, there has been a lot of writing recently since the business roundtable, and somebody kind of missed the concept of purpose beyond profit to be a purpose which goes not only beyond profit, but also goes beyond the scope.
Yeah. Yes,
I'm interested that our growers community live in a good health, in good education, with good nutrition, because eventually we want to create a loyal community producing better and better coffee in a more efficient way over the decades ahead. This is an investment, but this is the purpose. It's restricted to our mission. You cannot have, as long, because the customer is not ready to pay for extra value, which is not directly related to the value of the product that they buy. And the value of the product that they buy is tangible and intangible. Tangible is what you drink, the nutritional and organoleptic quality. And then intangible is the overall experience and the set of value and behavior and so-called. Beautiful. If you then consider the two, eliminate the two extreme, then what is the interest of a shareholder, of an investor? Let's put investor instead of shareholder, is to maximize the corporate value. And this is the long-term cash flow. How can you maximize cash flow? With good profitability. You can maximize with a good growth, and you can maximize with cost efficiency. Sustainability and growth are directly related, because if you have a good reputation, then you will have more loyal customers and ready to pay higher premiums. Indeed. Which is an enormous upside to the business. If you are sustainable, you have less liability, because don't think that if you simply maximize profit in the short term and you maybe pollute or something like that, you create liabilities, then you're going to pay for those liabilities in the future. And the entire economy nowadays is based on a model which is not paying for all the hidden costs. Because, for instance, we are talking about climate change, there is a gigantic cost for the so-called environmental service, which is not paid by all these companies which continue to, let's say, pollute. So, and the consumer is not charged for it. So this is why carbon taxing is the correct way to lead the economy, because you are actually paying for a liability that you are creating every day you stay in business, okay?
Yeah.
And last but not least, the way you maximize value is also because it's cash flow, the future cash flow actualized at the cost of weighted average cost of capital. But the formula of the weighted average cost of capital embeds one factor, which is called the beta factors, which is the proportionally is proportionally to the risk level. Of course, a company which is not sustainable is more risky.
Indeed.
And the risk is embedded in this beta. It increases the cost of capital, it depletes the enterprise value.
Exactly.
So with this financial formula, which is the official formula used to enterprise evaluation by all the finance guys, this formula and the bankers and whoever, this formula demonstrates that actually sustainability is a good business, and you have a good reason why to be a stakeholder company.
Amazing. That's well, Andrea, I'm sure everyone else on the line too would love to stay and talk for most of the morning. There's so much to hear, but we unfortunately need to close the coffee shop down for the moment. But thank you so much for sharing these wonderful views, and it makes so much sense. And I feel we're really on the cusp of something, and we would love to encourage everyone to follow what we're trying to do with this Interdependence Coalition to move forward with pushing this to be the way all businesses should operate. All the sense that you've just spoken is so powerful. Please follow us on LinkedIn. Next week, we'll be talking with Beth Thuren from Patagonia, and we'll hear more about how they've embedded this into their thinking as well. And we're learning so much from all these conversations, hopefully inspiring others to do and take actions. Thank you so much again for your time, and to you all who have put wonderful questions in the chat. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them, but we got to have such a wonderful conversation. We'll see you again next week. And thank you again for delicious coffee and for a wonderful, good company. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your espresso, your illy. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.